Princess Soraya of the crystal-spired moon Asterion had been raised among legends, tales of ancient warriors, winged protectors, and cosmic guardians. In every story, humans were always the villains, reckless, destructive, creatures born from a hostile death world who could not be trusted. Her mother, Queen Vaelira, often said, "Humans are storms with bones. Let them near, and they will break your world without knowing." Soraya believed these lessons without question. After all, she had never seen a human. Few had. Asterion kept itself distant from the outer territories, choosing to guard its culture against what it saw as chaos. But everything changed the day her royal envoy traveled to the frontier world Nether, a barren mining colony famous for its storms and unstable terrain. Relations with Nethra were fragile, and Soraya was sent to oversee a treaty that would secure resources Asterion desperately needed. The journey began smoothly as the cruiser Star Sovereign descended through Nethra's rust-colored skies. Yet beneath the sandstorms, simmering tensions brewed. Rebellious miners resented Asterion's demands. When Soraya stepped from the shuttle, wearing her silver crest crown and flowing ceremonial cloak, she felt dozens of eyes watching her with distrust. 2 days into negotiations, disaster struck. A separatist faction detonated seismic charges beneath the mining district, triggering a catastrophic ground collapse. Buildings crumbled, dust clouds choked the air, and the ground split open into fiery ravines. Soraya became separated from her guards as chaos engulfed the city. The princess stumbled through the scorched debris, coughing, her vision blurred by smoke. Her communication device crackled. Retreat, structural instability. Princess, run. Then silence. Soraya's lungs burned. The sky turned crimson as the planet's twin suns dipped behind the horizon, their dying light reflecting off the swirling dust. She reached a steep drop, an abyss where the ground had fallen away. The edge crumbled beneath her boots, and she slipped, but a hand grabbed her wrist before she fell. The grip was firm, warm, human. Soraya gasped as she looked up into a visor cracked with streaks of ash. Through it, she saw brown eyes, steady and alert. The man hauled her back up with surprising strength, despite his lean build and battered exosuit. "On your feet," he said, voice rough with exertion. "This whole sector's going down." Soraya froze. Her mind screamed warnings: human, danger, unpredictable, Deathworlder. But her body obeyed instinct. She clutched his armored forearm as he steadied her. "Who are you?" she demanded, masking her trembling voice with authority. He didn't answer. Instead, he handed her a small breathing mask and turned away as another explosion shook the ground. "Save your questions. Move." Middle, the human guardian. With no guards, no escort, and the landscape collapsing around her, Soraya had no choice but to follow the man who had saved her from the abyss. He guided her through narrow service tunnels and abandoned maintenance shafts. His movements were precise, efficient, nothing wasted. Soraya's distrust simmered beneath her skin. "You expect me to trust you?" she asked as they ducked beneath a fallen support beam. "You're alive, aren't you?" he replied. The tone was neutral, not mocking, simply factual. They reached a ruined transit station half buried beneath rubble. The human sealed the entrance with a portable barrier device and finally removed his cracked visor. The dim light revealed santan skin, a short black beard, and a long scar across one eyebrow, evidence of a life shaped by danger. "Name's Cale Ardent," he said. "Ex-combat medic. Contracted to this colony as emergency support." Soraya narrowed her eyes. "Why save me?" Cale shrugged slightly. "Because you were falling." His simplicity unsettled her. She was accustomed to layers of meaning, political maneuvering, cautionary etiquette. His straightforward honesty felt alien. As they rested, tremors echoed through the station, the aftermath of the sabotage still reshaping the terrain. Soraya studied Cale quietly. His suit bore scratches, bullet marks, and heat scorches. Only someone from a death world could survive such extremes, she thought. "What's it like?" she asked hesitantly. "Being human, being from a place like Earth?" Cale paused, tapping a diagnostic on his wrist display. "Hard. Beautiful sometimes. But mostly hard. You learn to fight for the people beside you, because the world won't stop trying to kill you." That line lingered with her. Fight for the people beside you. On Asterion, survival was granted, not earned. Here, existence itself seemed a daily battle. When tremors subsided, he stood. "We move at first light. Evac routes 50 clicks west." Soraya bristled. "You give orders as if I am your subordinate." Cale looked at her, expression unreadable. "I don't care about your title. I care about getting you out alive." No guard, no court official, no royal knight had ever spoken to her that way. It stung, and yet strangely, it grounded her. For the first time in her life, someone saw her not as royalty, but as a person worth saving. The journey through the wounded planet. Dawn arrived with a storm of metallic dust. Cale improvised protective wraps for Soraya's exposed head and hands using strips from his own cloak. They trekked through ravaged quarries, past molten fissures and shattered pipelines. Soraya struggled, stumbling often as the terrain shifted underfoot. Each time she faltered, Cale caught her arm, not gently but firmly, like a soldier accustomed to saving lives before they slipped away. Hours passed. The heat rose. Soraya's legs trembled. At one point she collapsed onto a rock, gasping. "Leave me. I'll slow you down." Cale crouched before her, pressed a water canister to her lips. "Not happening." "You owe me nothing," she whispered. "You're right," he said calmly. "But someone has to care whether you breathe tomorrow." The sincerity in his voice cut deeper than any insult. She drank, feeling strength return to her limbs. Something inside her shifted, an understanding, an awakening. For the first time, Soraya realized she feared losing him, though she barely knew him. Climax, the last bridge. By late afternoon, they reached a canyon where a retractable bridge once connected to the evacuation station. Now, only twisted metal remained. Lava glowed far below. "We jump?" Soraya asked, half sarcastic, half terrified. Cale shook his head. "We build something." They scavenged nearby ruins, assembling a makeshift glide line with cables and broken supports. As Cale tested the anchors, Soraya felt an unexpected dread for him. "You've risked your life too often already," she said softly. Cale didn't look up. "Life's risk. Yours is just louder right now." He secured the final anchor and clipped her to the line. I'll send you across first. If the mount fails, I'll still be here to improvise. Soraya's throat tightened. And if it fails after I cross? Kale gave her a wry half-smile. Then I hope your people remember I tried. Soraya had no words. She slid across the line, heart pounding as sparks sprayed beneath her. She reached the far ledge safely and braced herself, watching Kale prepare to follow. Halfway across, the anchor on his side ripped free, just as he'd predicted. Kale! Soraya screamed. He swung dangerously, hanging above molten fire. Without hesitation, she lunged forward, catching the remaining cable and pulling with all her strength. Pain shot through her arms, yet she held on. "Don't let go," she cried. Kale climbed hand over hand until he reached the ledge. They collapsed side by side, chests heaving. Soraya realized her hands were torn and bleeding from the cable, but she didn't care. Kale stared at her, disbelief flickering in his gaze. "You saved me." Soraya swallowed tightly. "Of course I did." Ending, the truth revealed. Hours later, Royal Rescue Craft found them. Soraya's guards rushed to her side, shields raised toward Kale, weapons drawn. "Stand down," Soraya commanded, surprising even herself. "He saved my life twice." Kale stepped back, ready to fade into the crowd of survivors, but Soraya grabbed his wrist before he could leave. "You could have abandoned me," she said softly, "yet you stayed." Kale met her gaze. Someone had to. The simplicity of his words undid her completely. For the first time in her life, Soraya understood why humans were feared, not because they were destructive, but because their loyalty was stronger than reason, their courage born from worlds that tried to kill them, their hearts forged in fire and resilience. Before boarding her ship, Soraya turned to Kale. "I will return," she said, voice steady. "And when I do, I hope you will fight beside me, not as a contract medic, but as a guardian by choice." Kale paused, then nodded once. "If you ask, I'll be there." As the ship ascended, Soraya stood in silent amazement, watching the man below grow smaller in the distance. No legend she'd ever heard had prepared her for the truth. The one who saved her life was human, and she would never look at humanity the same way again.